Hello everyone, good morning. How are you today? I hope everyone is good health. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dian Santiasih. Today, I would like to present a mathematics topic entitled Quadratic Equation and Function. In this presentation, I will explain the basic concept of quadratic equation, method for solving them, quadratic function, their graphs, and some real-life application. So let's begin. Okay, before we begin, let's look at our learning objective. After studying this topic, we should be able to solve quadratic equation in everyday situation as quadratic function to solve real-world problems, recognize the root, discriminant, graphs, and application of quadratic function. This objective will help us understand both the theory and the practical use as quadratic equation and function. So let's discuss quadratic equation. Equation a A quadratic equation is an equation in which the highest power of the variable is 2. The general form of a quadratic equal equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is not equal to 0. For example, x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. The solution of a quadratic equation is called the root of the equation. These are the values of x that satisfy the equation. Okay, there are three common methods for solving quadratic equation. The first method is factorization. Factorization. In this method, we read the equation into factors and solve each factor. The second method is completing the square. Here, we transform the equation into a perfect square from before finding the solution. The third method is the quadratic formula. The formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. This method can be used for any quadratic equation. Next, let's discuss the discriminant. The discriminant is the expression b squared minus 4ac. It helps us determine the types of roots of a quadratic equation. There are three possibilities. If the discriminant is greater than 0, the equation has to decide real root. If the discriminant is equal to 0, the equation has one repeated real root. If the discriminant is less than 0, the equation has two imaginary or complex root. Therefore, the discriminant us about the nature of the solution before we even solve the equation. Now let's move the quadratic function. A quadratic function is a function whose highest power of the variable the is 2. The general form is f of x equal ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is not equal to 0. The graph of quadratic function is called the parabola. If a is positive, the parabola opens upward. If a is negative, the parabola opens downward. Every quadratic graph has several important characteristics. First, it has an axis of symmetry. The formula is x equal negative b divided by 2a. Second, it has a vertex which is the highest of or lowest point of the parabola. The coordinate of the vertex are negative b over a 2a and of negative b over 2a. Finally, the graph has intercept. The y-intercept is at 0, c, while the x-intercepts are the root of the quadratic equation. Next, a quadratic function can be written in three different forms. The first is standard form. F of x equal ax squared plus bx plus c. The second of the factored form f of x equal 8 times x minus x 1 times x minus x2. This form makes it easy to identify the roots. The third is the vertex form. F of x equal a times x minus h x squared plus k. This form helps us identify the vertex of the parabola directly. Quadratic functions have many applications in real life. For example, they are used to describe the trajectory of a ball, which follow a parabolic path. They are also used to determine maximum or minimum areas in geometry. In business, quadratic functions help analyze profit and cost optimization. They are also widely used in physics, engineering, and economics to model different phenomena. Okay, to conclude today's presentation, we have learned about quadratic equation method for solving them, the discriminant quadratic function, the characteristic of their graphs, and their application in everyday life. Understanding quadratic equation and function is important because they are widely used in mathematics and many another fields. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, I would like I'm sorry. If you have any question, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.